It's the much talked about cover story during Nationwide at 5. Here Cliff Hughes get to the heart of the story of the day. Cover story aired 5:30 weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Nationwide at 5. Talk radio at its best. Cover story.
Cover Story is brought to you by JTA Credit Union, serving our members, impacting lives positively.
Multilink, roll with control. Use Multilink, safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robeanne Williams.
In Nationwide News at this hour, the government is moving to make it easier for businesses to be tax compliant by adjusting the date for filings.
NIA boss wants legislative changes in a bid to improve Jamaica's corruption perception score.
One of them was a move towards promulgating the use of unexplained wealth order. The other area was to look at an amendment to the gag clause in the Integrity Commission Act.
Jack then denies it's named as a beneficiary of UHWI's unlawful use of tax-exempt status. Kenju Black is slapped with additional bail conditions in case involving death of 4 people on highway. A high-ranking member of the Bray Street gang has been shot dead by the police.
In news from the rest of the world, Barbados' Motley cites crime concerns as reason to seek re-election.
Donald Trump threatens to block the opening of a U.S.-Canada bridge.
In sports, Jamaica stands on the cusp of another potential history-making World Cup qualifying achievement in Costa Rica hours from now.
And later in our broadcast, in the cover story at 5:35, Jamaica's score on the Global Corruption Perception Index remains unchanged from last year. What's the state of the fight against corruption in the country? Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ Mikel Jackson, and the Principal Director of the National Integrity Action, NIA, Dr. Gavin Mars, will tell us.
In the nation's business at 6:25, the government is moving to make it easier for businesses to be tax compliant by adjusting the date for filing. What are the implications? Fiscal Commissioner Courtney Williams will join us.
Taking you around the world at 6:45, we continue to focus on the Barbados election as Bajans prepare to go to the polls tomorrow. Political scientist Deveron Bruce will break down the party manifestos and tell us who's likely to form the next government.
And at 7, it's the comments section with Shalois Michael and Mahiri Stewart. This evening, they'll ask, do you know what to do in the event of an earthquake? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90FM.
All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile Nationwide 90FM, RivaNews.ai, and on the Riva News app. It's available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Tuesday afternoon, it's Tuesday, February 10, 2026.
The hour is brought to you by the KFC Value Menu. Grab a chicken box, famous bowl, small popcorn chicken, or crunch sandwich today with combos starting at just $620. KFC, it's finger licking good.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
And now to the details. The government is moving to make it easier for businesses to be tax compliant by adjusting the date for filing. The adjustment forms part of amendments to the Asset Tax, Specified Bodies and Income Tax Acts. The bills were tabled in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
Finance Minister Favour Williams says the short time frame in which businesses must file their taxes has been a sore point for years. She says the government is now moving to address the issue.
Under the current framework, corporate taxpayers are required to finalize audited financial statements, prepare annual income tax returns, and make final tax payments within a relatively compressed period. following the end of the year of assessment. This timeline has long been recognized as a sustained source of compliance pressure for corporate taxpayers and accountants and auditors, given the sequencing and complexity of year-end financial reporting obligation. The issue of adjusting the annual filing and payment date has been under active consideration since 2021.
Corporate income tax in Jamaica follows a calendar year schedule requiring companies to file annual returns by March 15 of the following year. The government is utilizing already planned adjustments caused by Hurricane Melissa to implement the reform, which has long been recommended by several groups, including the Independent Fiscal Commission. The minister says the date will be moved to April 15.
The current fiscal circumstances have created an opportunity to advance this reform in a careful, measured manner. The Income Tax Amendment Bill and the Assets Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill provide for a limited adjustment to the annual filing and payment date for corporate income tax, moving the final return and payment date from March 15th to April 15th, beginning with the year of assessment 2025. For administrative consistency, the Assets Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill aligns the filing and payment date for assets tax with the revised corporate income tax timeline.
The minister says this will only apply to corporate income tax and asset tax filings.
The amendment is intended to reduce compliance pressure, improve administrative coherence, and better align revenue realization with fiscal planning, while remaining fully consistent with the government's overall fiscal framework.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson raised no objection to the adjustments proposed by the finance minister.
To move the filing date from March to April, it is not something that we would have an objection to. I believe it puts the government in a better position to understand the amount of taxes it would collect by the end of the fiscal year, March 30th. And as the minister said, it's something that has been recommended by both tax professionals, and the Fiscal Commission actually in his last report recommended it.
Julian Robinson, opposition spokesman on finance. He was speaking in the House of Representatives on Tuesday.
And the Holness administration is moving to legally enshrine its policy of providing tax relief on payments made to employees for Hurricane Melissa financial support. The relief is applicable up to $200,000. Finance Minister Favour Williams tabled the legislation in the lower house on Tuesday.
The Income Tax Adjustment Bill, now before this Honourable House, gives legislative effect to that commitment. It converts a necessary policy response into a clear statutory framework, providing certainty to employees, employers, and the tax administration alike, while ensuring that compassion and fiscal responsibility are properly aligned in law. Mr. Speaker, this Honourable House is reminded under Section 2.1 of the Income Tax Act that emoluments are defined broadly to include salaries, wages, fees, and any other benefits arising from employment, all of which are ordinarily subject to tax.
The legislation is intended to provide financial support to employees as they undertake personal recovery and welfare efforts following the effects of the Category 5 hurricane. Following the policy change, employers may make cash payments to their employees not exceeding the $2,000 aggregate amount. That should be the $200,000 aggregate amount. This will be treated as tax-free. Minister Williams says the law will also be amended to create a framework for similar payments for future disasters.
While this bill addresses the immediate circumstances arising from Hurricane Melissa, it is not intended to be the final word on how disaster-related employee support is treated in our tax system. Recent events have made it clear that Jamaica would benefit from a more enduring framework for managing disaster-related payments in future emergencies. It is with this thought, Madam Speaker, that the government has further amended the bill to include the permanent mechanism to allow for clearly defined disaster relief support to be treated consistently under the income tax regime, subject always to appropriate oversight.
Favour Williams, the Finance Minister.
Principal Director of National Integrity Action, NIA, Dr. Gavin Myers, says legislative changes are needed to improve Jamaica's standing on the Global Corruption Perception Index, CPI. He was reacting to the report that Jamaica has again retained a CPI score of 44 for the 6th year in a row.
One around the need for legislative change that were overdue. One of them was a move towards promoting or promulgating the use of unexplained wealth order to require public officials and others to account for wealth that is clearly disproportionate to a lawful income. The other area was to look at an amendment to the gag clause, so-called in the Integrity Commission Act. We are saying that oversight bodies must be able to communicate their findings responsibly and transparently. The other area was to strengthen the whistleblower protection, because one of the things I will find out is that people are not likely most times to report corruption if doing so puts their livelihoods or lives at risk. So robust protections are essential for surfacing wrongdoing.
A country's score is the perceived level of public sector corruption on a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 means highly corrupt and 100 means very clean. Jamaica's CPI score of 44 has remained unchanged since 2020. This ranks the country 73 out of 182 countries. A CPI score below 50 indicates a serious corruption problem. Dr. Myers says transparency is crucial in increasing the trust and accountability component of the CPI evaluation.
For consistent investigation and prosecution of breaches of the Public Procurement Act, and also the use of administrative sanctions to strengthen the oversight over our resources. Also, commending the state for starting to publish proactively contract awards to proactively allow for transparency in terms of public procurement. And we're saying that public procurement is a critical point, that if we do these, we will make major changes. Each of these things that we have suggested increases visibility, accountability, and trust. And these are the very indicators that feed into the CPI assessment.
Dr. Gavin Myers, Principal Director of NIA.
The Jackton Group of Companies is denying that the Auditor General's report named it as a beneficiary of the University Hospital of the West Indies, UHWI's inappropriate use of its tax exemption status to import 12 dialysis machines. The company released a statement on its Instagram page on Monday. It says the Auditor General's report did not make any findings of fraud, misconduct, or wrongdoing against Jackton. Instead, it says the report examines institutional weaknesses within UHWI's internal processes. Jackton says its engagements with the hospital are conducted under formal agreements, or rather arrangements, and in accordance with all applicable policies and procedures. Nationwide News previously reported that the AG's team found that the hospital used its tax exemption status to import goods for at least 3 private companies. The companies were not named in the Auditor General's public report, but documents seen by our news center confirmed that one of those companies is Jackton. Jackton is owned by Chairman of the PNP's Region 3 and Member of Parliament for East Central St. Andrew, Dennis Gordon.
Additional bail conditions have been imposed on university student Kenju Black in relation to charges arising from the deaths of 4 people on the PJ Patterson Highway last year. The additional conditions were imposed as the matter has now been transferred to the Supreme Court. The case was mentioned in the St. Catherine Parish Court on Tuesday, where Black first appeared and was subsequently formally transferred. Prior to the transfer, Black was out on bail with a sum set at $800,000. Under the new bail conditions, Black is required to report to the police once per week, surrender her travel documents, and is subject to a stop order. She's scheduled to return to court on April 23 for plea and case management. Kenju Black is the daughter of Mandeville-based businessman and PNP activist Kenneth Skengdon Black. She's charged with 4 counts of causing death by dangerous driving. The allegations are that shortly after midnight on Sunday, March 29, 2025, the driver of a grey Toyota Probox lost control of the vehicle, causing it to overturn on the PJ Patterson Highway in St. Catherine. It's further alleged that Black, who was driving a 2022 Mercedes-Benz, collided with the overturned vehicle, resulting in the deaths of 4 people. Those who died have been identified as Andre McLeish, the owner and operator of the vehicle, 8-year-old Trey Stewart, Wendy Lammy, and Taisha Manhertz. 3 other persons were reportedly injured in the collision.
You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5. We'll have more after these.
See twice the style for less at IQ Optical. Buy 1 pair of glasses and get your second and third pair half price. Don't miss out. Call 876-929-7732 or visit IQ Optical today, where clarity never looked sharper.
The time by IQ Optical is...
The clock says 15 minutes after 5.
Termites, rodents, or birds infesting your home or office? Call Rentokil Initial, the pest expert, at 876-926-4236 for a free pest assessment island-wide. The temperature brought to you by Rentokil Initial is
27 degrees Celsius in Kingston and Montego Bay.
Continuing the news. Supreme Court Judge Justice Chester Crooks has recused himself from hearing a lawsuit filed by former president of the Jamaica College Old Boys Association, Major Basil Jarrett, against the school's chairman Lance Hilton. The development is the latest in a long-running legal dispute between Jarrett and the school's board. Jarrett, who's also Director of Communications at MOCA, is suing Hilton for defamation and for leading what he calls a deliberate campaign aimed at damaging his reputation. According to Jarrett, the heart of the matter stems from his objections to JC's attempt to retain former Principal and Education Minister Ruel Reid after he was arrested on corruption charges. On Tuesday, Justice Crooks recused himself after disclosing that he served with Jarrett in the Jamaica Defense Force. He also noted that he had been involved in the trial of Reid and his co-accused, which is currently underway. The Supreme Court judge also recused himself from trying that case after ordering that the embattled former principal stand trial for the corruption charges. Justice Crooks ordered that the case management be adjourned to March 12. Major Jarrett is represented by attorneys at law Annalisa Lindsay and Daniel Archer, while Hilton is represented by his brother, King's Counsel Michael Hilton.
An alleged high-ranking member of the Bray Street gang in Kingston was shot and killed by police early Tuesday morning. He's identified as 40-year-old Effin Clark, otherwise called Federal. Clark was killed after he reportedly pointed a firearm at the police at Landlease in St. Andrew. He was featured on the police's Wanted Wednesdays campaign and was wanted for assault at common law, possession of prohibited weapon, and unauthorized possession of ammunition. It's reported that teams from the Kingston East Police were conducting an operation at a house at 3 a.m. on Tuesday. During the operation, a female later identified as Clark's common-law wife answered the door. Upon entering the bedroom, the police encountered Clark, who pointed a firearm at them. The police opened fire, killing Clark. A Glock 40 pistol was taken from his body. According to police, Clark was released from jail early last year after serving 4 years on remand for murder. It's also revealed that Clark was the nephew of a convicted criminal who gave him safe refuge in Landlease.
There was uproar at today's monthly meeting of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, the KSAMC, after PMP Councillor for the Springfield Division, Lorraine Dobson, was elected as Deputy Mayor. This breaks from tradition, as the Deputy Mayor is almost always elected from the minor political party. There's a 2020 seat split in the KSAMC. It's understood 3 JLP councillors were absent from the sitting. The information at hand is that the PMP caucus used its majority to push through the vote. The other JLP councillors subsequently walked out of the meeting in protest.
The police have arrested a high-risk target attached to the Omar Road Devils Gang in Kingston. He's 35-year-old Neron Rainford of Carpenter Road in Kingston. Rainford is said to be aligned to the leader of the Devils Gang, Anijah Dixon, otherwise called Devil. He was apprehended by police attached to the Area 4 Fugitive Apprehension Team. Rainford reportedly visited O'Mara Road on Monday following the killing of his friend Eucal Bliss by the police. Bliss was allegedly one of the men involved in a gun attack on the police and others at Chisholm Avenue in St. Andrew last Friday. Rainford was arrested in the vicinity of O'Mara Road and Chisholm Avenue. He was handed over to the JCF's Criminal Investigations Branch, CIB.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley says growing geopolitical tensions and domestic security concerns prompted her decision to contest another general election. Barbadians will head to the polls on Wednesday after Mottley called the snap election in January. Voters in Barbados will go to the polls to elect all 30 members of the House of Assembly, which is the lower house of the Bajan Parliament. A majority of 16 seats is needed to form government. Prime Minister Mottley's party has won all 30 seats in the last two general elections. Ms. Mottley explained that developments across the region and globally weighed heavily in her decision to seek another term. She says this includes, in particular, the potential impact of international conflicts and economic pressures on Barbados.
President Donald Trump has threatened to block the opening of a bridge connecting the U.S. and Canada. In a social media post on Tuesday, Trump says the block will continue until Washington is fully compensated for everything it has given to its northern neighbor. The Gordie Howe International Bridge connects the Canadian province of Ontario to the U.S. state of Michigan. The bridge is funded by the Canadian government but will be publicly owned by both Canada and Michigan. On Tuesday, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney responded, saying he had a positive conversation with Trump. He also reminded the U.S. president that Canada paid for the bridge. It's not clear how Trump could block its opening, but he said negotiations would begin immediately.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, the government is moving to make it easier for businesses to be tax compliant by adjusting the date for filings.
NIA boss wants legislative changes in a bid to improve Jamaica's corruption perception score.
One of them was a move towards promulgating the use of unexplained wealth order. The other area was to look at an amendment to the gag clause in the Integrity Commission Act.
Jack then denies it's named as a beneficiary of UHWI's unlawful use of tax-exempt status, but Nationwide stands by its reporting.
Ken Jew Black is slapped with additional bail conditions in case involving death of 4 people on highway.
And a high-ranking member of the Bray Street gang has been shot dead by the police. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robeanne Williams.
Listeners, you can find the news on our website at rivernews.ai and on the River News app available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next. The headlines at 6.
TransJam Highways is having a 50% Valentine's Day discount on T-Tac packages. Get yours from the teller in the toll booth for only $1,250, including a $500 toll credit from February 9 to 2026. Got you quicker with a T-Tag every time on TransJam Highways.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. We start with news on football. Jamaica could be celebrating another piece of football history in about 24 hours' time as the national under-17 men's team look to secure a place at the FIFA World Cup finals in Qatar in November. The Wendell Downswell conditioned team will face Canada in a decisive Group G clash of the CONCACAF Final One qualifiers in Costa Rica starting at 3 p.m. Jamaica time. The young reggae boys need only a draw to top the group and to qualify for the World Cup. They're currently locked on 6 points, the same as the Canadians, but the Jamaicans, they're sporting a massive goal advantage. Plus 15 to Canada's plus 3. If the Jamaicans manage to pull this off and qualify for the World Cup, it would be a third time at the showpiece for the Land of Wood and Water following previous appearances in 1999 and 2011. It would also be a personal milestone for head coach Wendell Boyus Downswell. He's a current coach, and he was also the head coach in 1999 and in 2011 when the team made it to those two World Cups. President of the Jamaica Football Federation, Michael Ricketty, caught up with Nationwide Sports late on Tuesday and is expressing confidence that the young reggae boys will make up for the heartbreak suffered by the senior team during their campaign last year.
The scenario is just about what it was last year, but based on the experience that we have gained coming out of last year's qualifiers, I think we're in a better position now. We really want to use this opportunity to encourage the young boys. This is going to be huge for us. This administration has not qualified a male team for a global tournament. We're on the verge of doing so. I just want to encourage them, ask them to be strong, both physically and mentally, and I can guarantee them that the sky will be the limit.
Kelvin Brown and Jamari Nolan have been irrepressible for Jamaica so far at the tournament. Brown has so far scored 5 goals in 2 outings. Nolan has also impressed, contributing 3 goals to the team's tally so far.
When you look at the number of goals we scored, I think we scored 12 against the Cayman Islands. I think that was shared amongst maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 players, which shows the all-round attacking depth of our team.
Michael Ricketts, and we wish the young reggae boys all the best tomorrow in their game, kicking off at 3 o'clock, as I mentioned, against the Canadians. Manchester United, their 4-game winning streak in the English Premier League was snapped a short time ago. They played out a 1-1 draw with West Ham United at the Olympic Stadium in London. Thomas Souček of the Czech Republic gave West Ham United, the Hammers, the lead just 5 minutes after the interval.
Going to goal interval, Souček! It's Thomas Souček for West Ham United!
Yeah, so Thomas Souček shutting the Hammers in front of Benjamin Šeško of Slovenia, while he earned United a share of the points with the very last play of the game, 6 minutes into added time. United, who were dropping points under interim coach Michael Carrick for the first time, they are moved up to 4th in the standings, and they're on 45 points, just 1 ahead of Chelsea, who led twice but had to settle for a 2-2 draw with Leeds United in the capital. The game was at Stamford Bridge today. And in other games on Tuesday, Newcastle United, where they defeated Tottenham Hotspur 2-1 in London to move up to 10th, while Spurs dropped to 16th. And Bournemouth, they tagged Everton by 2-1. 5 more games are on Wednesday, including the title-chasing Manchester City. They'll be home at the Etihad. They'll welcome the visit of the Londoners, Fulham. And there's also another big game over on the south coast of England, Sunderland, who are the only team in London, in England, in the Premier League to have unbeaten record at home. They're hosting the defending champions, Liverpool. Both games are kicking off just after 3 o'clock on Wednesday. Should be tantalizing as well. West Indies head coach Darren Sammy says his side is focused on delivering an entertaining and disciplined performance when they take on Big Bad England in the second game of their T20 World Cup campaign. The game will be at the Wankhede Stadium and it's set to bowl off at 8:30 in the morning, Wednesday, Jamaica time. Sammy stressed that resilience and execution will be key if the Caribbean side is to challenge the big guns of the T20 format. He believes sticking to the plans under pressure will give his players a strong chance of succeeding. Sammy noted that once the team remains committed to their skills and executes consistently, they can put themselves in a position to compete deep into the tournament. He added that T20 cricket often rewards teams which stay composed and trust their process, particularly in high-profile encounters.
We started the tournament well. Mumbai has been a place that has been kind to us in World Cups. Against some same opposition we face tomorrow, so we look forward to it. Like I've said before, many people look at West Indies and all the issues that we have, and sometimes it reflects in the on-field performance, so they don't really give us much of a chance. But within the group, the confidence we have in our group, the players that we have, the experience we have playing in India, we know when we put it together and we trust our execution on the process, we become a very competitive team, and hopefully that competition could result in us winning cricket games.
I see West Indies all-former coach Darren Sammy. And we close sports at this time with, and still on cricket, Cricket West Indies. Well, they have congratulated the Jamaican spinner Vital Laws on his selection in the ICC Under-19 World Cup team of the tournament. The 18-year-old St. Jago standout is the only West Indian in the 12-man team. Laws grabbed 10 wickets in 5 games at an average of 22 before the team's exit at the Super 6 stage, that heartbreaking defeat to Australia. His best showing came in the opening game against Tanzania. He grabbed 3 for 23 off his 6 overs to help the side to a 5-wicket success. He was also the West Indies' best bowler in the following game against Afghanistan, which they lost. He bagged 3 for 48, and this time he bowled 10 overs. And in their opening game of the Super Sixes against Ireland, Vital Laws produced a decent all-round performance. He scored an unbeaten 18 off 10 balls, and he bagged 2 crucial wickets. He says he's just enjoying his cricket at the minute.
I've been having fun in the later part of the evenings. I've also have so much fun while bowling, receiving batters, picking up some pretty important wickets at times. So I have fun in both aspects. I wouldn't say any more than the other. Consistency, I think I've been a lot more consistent. Seeing the level I've come from over the years, I've got way more consistent, got way more control. I know I have an idea of what I'm doing whilst bowling.
That's Vital Laws. He's back in Jamaica, and doing very well at the club league. He bagged 5 wickets this past weekend. His team is into the semi-finals of the club league. And that's what we have to do to sports at the minute. We're going to be back at 6:05. Alex Swebe will have your major sportscast.
For all your custom framing, printing, graphic design, and purchase of art, Make It Frame Art Jamaica Limited, serving you for over 40 years. The time by Frame Art Jamaica is
5:32.
Following the passage of Hurricane Melissa, Jamaicans are urged to take precautions to prevent leptospirosis, a disease spread through contact with water, soil, or food contaminated by the urine of infected animals. Remember, avoid swimming, wading, or playing in floodwaters or any water that may have resulted from flooding. Avoid consuming food that may have been contaminated with floodwater or animal urine. Wear protective clothing and footwear when working or walking in areas that may be contaminated. And visit the nearest health center immediately if you experience fever, chills, muscle pain, or other flu-like symptoms. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
It's hard-hitting. It's riveting. It's the much-talked-about cover story during Nationwide at 5. Here Cliff Hughes get to the heart of the story of the day. Cover Story, aired 5:30 weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Nationwide at 5. Talk radio at its best. Cover Story.
Cover Story is brought to you by JTA Credit Union, serving our members, impacting lives positively.
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Feel the love floating through the airwaves this Valentine's with Nationwide 90 FM. Introducing Love is in the Air.
I found love in you.
A sweet and lovely radio feature inside Cliff Hughes Online at 12:30 p.m. and E-Zone at 4:35 p.m. starting February 9.
Something's got a hold on me lately.
From romantic shout-outs to big love for friends, family, and the ones who always show up, we're connecting hearts on air and across social media.
Think I'd leave your side, baby.
Got something loving to say? Say it loud and say it proud. Let Nationwide help you make this Valentine unforgettable.
I think it's so easy to fall in love.
Submit messages to your Valentine or secret admirer to sales@nationwidenewsnetwork.com and let us do the rest. Let Nationwide 90 FM be your gateway to a memorable Valentine's season. Because guess what? Love sounds better on the radio.
Heart be racing like a drum, drum, drum. Feel it in my soul. Leave me one.
Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me here on Nationwide at 5. It's time for the cover story. I'm Ricardo Brooks. I hope I find you well. Hello to you if you're in the car, in traffic, heading home, hoping to keep your company. Hello to you if you're out there otherwise in Radioland. And hello to you if you're joining us on the app, on the website, on YouTube. Very happy to have you. Matters of corruption in the cover story this afternoon, because Jamaica's score on that Global Corruption Perception Index, the CPI, for 2025 remains unchanged from last year. And that's according to the latest rankings released by the global integrity watchdog Transparency International. Jamaica retained a CPI score of 44, and that's the highest the country has ever attained. This year, the highest ranked nation was Denmark, and that's for the 8th year in a row. It has a score of 89. At the bottom of the index, the country's scoring below 25. Transparency International says these are mostly conflict-affected and highly repressive countries, Venezuela being among them, with a score of 10, and the lowest scorers, Somalia and South Sudan, both scored 9. I'm pleased to be joined by the Principal Director of National Integrity Action, NIA, Dr. Gavin Mars, and the Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, Michael Jackson. They're going to help us through the latest ranking. Dr. Mars, Ms. Jackson, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon to you and your listeners.
Thank you so much for joining me. Let me start with you, Dr. Mars. Your reaction? We're basically at a standstill, eh? We're not moving.
Yeah, I used a term, we're in the doldrums, saying that things haven't moved. Even though there has been effort, things haven't moved. So I use that term to speak about where we are. And it's just a point that though the ship Jamaica hasn't moved, the situation across the world has deteriorated. So that is also one point of note that is a concern, that things are going bad around us too.
Yeah, and you said there's been effort, but obviously it would appear not enough. What are some of those positive signs that you're seeing that you would refer to as effort?
So obviously, the first thing we should talk about is that the structures that are in place, the Auditor Generals, the Integrity Commissions, the different investigative arms, MOCA, FID, that entire investigative architecture, then the prosecutorial and just the judicial system has been working. We can see that evidence that is there. We have seen over the last year numerous fraud-related or public integrity-related cases have gone through the courts. I can use one that comes off the Sports Development Foundation. That entire case came up and has gone through. Right. There's some that are continuing. There's investigations that are continuing, and even beyond that, the reports from the Auditor General and Integrity Commission is there. And another one that I would point out that is also very important is that we are seeing in the Integrity Commission a very continued move in terms of statutory holding persons to account around their statutory declarations. And this is happening. So these are things that are happening from both the civil service side, and also there is work in terms of trying to ensure that the robustness of our investigative and legal systems are there. So that is there. We're doing work.
Yeah. Michael Jackson, I think Dr. Myers is right, except I'm thinking to myself, but the gag clause still exists in the Integrity Commission Act. But the Auditor General tables reports in the Parliament and people scoff at them in large part. How do you assess that? So yes, we have the institutions and the structures in place, but some of them are rendered kind of ineffective, aren't they?
You know, I like to start from the positive, as we've just outlined. And the fact is that when we got that score of 44 in 2017, I think we have to place in context that particular year and the efforts leading up to that highest score being given. It was the year that our Parliament passed a strong piece of legislation, which is the Integrity Commission Act. And I think we have to acknowledge the institutions that we have. There is concern when...
Your call cannot be completed at this time.
Am I being heard?
Yeah, no, we're sorry about that. I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Okay. There is cause for concern when a country is stagnant with this score that it has. So 44 was in 2017, 2018, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, up to 2025. The question is, what needs to be done differently so that we can actually see some improvement? So I agree with you that we have these institutions. The question is it sufficiently resourced? We know yes, because we see the budgets in the billions across these institutions. Right. But unfortunately, what we have also had are public commentaries from public officials, especially parliamentarians, making unsavory comments, not only towards the institutions, but sometimes the individuals leading these institutions. And then I think how we speak on corruption in the country, we also have to change how that is done so that we can see the shifting attitudes among us as citizens. So, for example, we call for the demands for greater prosecution. We agree. We now have an active matter before the courts. That's the rural read matter. The question is, what are some of the administrative sanctions that need to be greater employed, where you see surcharges actually being implemented and actioned, where the public can say, okay, yes, the criminal proceedings perhaps is not being instituted, but when am I going to be hearing about a senior official, not the politician, no, because sometimes we're too stuck on that, but a senior official being asked to pay funds back to the country that has been wasted or misappropriated through carelessness, negligence, for example, that has resulted in loss of earnings for the country. So I think even how we speak as civil society, how our parliamentarians speak, we have to get to that point where the public can stop scoffing at corruption matters and recognize, for example, that when a public body misuses their tax exemption certificate, this is not a politics thing where we try to blame one party over the other. This is a situation where it's taking monies out of our collective purse and preventing the hospital beds from being purchased, preventing schools from being properly resourced, and so on. I think until we get to that point wherein we're not only blocking roads because the monies, we're not getting everything that we want, but also because corruption and the perception thereof, which is also driven by some of these Auditor General reports, we need to start treating it seriously and not seeing it as just the big man, but also us as citizens who are willing to pay to get in front of the line.
Yeah. Dr. Myers, I want to hear you on that point of the politicians taking aim at some of the anti-corruption bodies. We know the strong withering criticism, for example, that the Integrity Commission has come under. But I imagine the politicians would say, look, if we think we're being hard done, if we think the body is going about its work in a way that is unfair to us, we ought to be able to speak out and speak out strongly. You disagree with them?
So, you say misinformation and disinformation is two things that we should be wary of. One, when we use nefarious and deliberate construings that are, one, injurious to the good order, that is deliberately used in a way to beat down, to block, to just make us generally, any person asking for any form of commentary, the enemy, there's something wrong there. Every one of us as Jamaicans have a right, but certain things that are happening goes beyond just a right, but rather there's an appearance, and the appearance is very important here. The perception that people are acting as if they are above the law, that they are above any form of commentary that seeks to hold them account, and that is a dangerous situation we're having. And I want to say it in this way: we would not accept that of others. So why is it that we're accepting it of certain people? It is critical that we point out that these laws there aren't targeting just politicians. It is saying that those persons who are in public office, all of them, they have a duty to perform, and if they breach it, all of them should be held accountable. So no one set should try and block that. But even going further, when you look at, if it is that you are a part of the executive, you are a part of the legislature, and your response is to say that these laws do not hold you accountable, then why is it that you would expect it to hold the country accountable? But
the parliamentarians say, and I recall a particular sitting where the matter of reporting, for example, of the Integrity Commission came up, and there was a question as to why there was a distinct and discrete heading that says parliamentarians, and you didn't have one that said, for example, judges or permanent secretaries. And so I recall the conversation being, are parliamentarians being singled out?
That's a rhetoric.
Tell me why. Wait, let me take it after the break, because I think there's merit, but let me hear why he says a rhetoric after the break.
Order Pizza Hut online at pizzahutjamaica.com or through WhatsApp at 876-837-4488. Pizza Hut, now that's delivery. The time by Pizza Hut is
5:46. This is an important announcement from the National Water Commission. Now, the NWC is conducting sewer repair works along River Bay Road from Railway Lane to the NWC's River Bay Road sewage pump station in Montego Bay, St. James. Works commenced on Sunday, February 8, 2026, and will end on Sunday, March 8, 2026. During this period, River Bay Road between Slaughterhouse Road and Railway Lane will be closed to vehicular traffic. Motorists are encouraged to use alternative routes. Intermittent dust and noise disturbances may occur. The NWC apologizes for the inconvenience and thanks the public for their patience and understanding. That was an important announcement from the National Water Commission.
KFC, my mind studying. Right now I'm thinking chicken, famous bowl, chicken box combo and popcorn chicken. KFC on my mind, it's on my brain. Great flavor, great taste, like every day. Give me that price, value benefit the budget, little bit to your pay.
The KFC value menu always has you thinking chicken. Get the chicken box combo for just $680, or get the famous bowl combo for $620, or popcorn chicken combo for $630. KFC, it's finger licking good.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nationwide at 5. Jamaica is at a standstill where the Corruption Perception Index is concerned. We are standing still at 44. No changes. Dr. Gavin Maz, the Principal Director of National Integrity Action, NIA, is with me. So too Michael Jackson, the Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice. They are reacting and explaining what they think we need to do to improve this score. Before the break, Dr. Maz, you were pointing out that you think it's a red herring, the concern that the parliamentarians say they feel targeted.
So, and let's look at it this way, bluntly. Politicians in general, whether they are members of the executive or members of the legislature, whether they're members of at the local council, have an inordinate sway over how resources are positioned and also how resources are used, and even have been known to direct resources in a certain way. So that type of responsibility and gives them a level of scrutiny that is above others. So, and I'll use this example.
But above judges, though, I mean, judges also conceivably exercise an extraordinary amount of power. Not even conceivably, they do. They absolutely do.
No, and I would never in any way say that high-level government officials aren't there and have their level of scrutiny. However, there needs to be specific and deliberate focus on the capacity of certain members of the political class to be a part of state capture. And state capture is something we are guarding against. So any member, and I don't recall who it is who said that, but any member who thinks that because people are asking for them to be held to a high level of scrutiny, then there's a problem with them, and we need to ask, what is it that they're afraid of in terms of scrutiny? It should be that we're saying that we are held to such a high level of scrutiny that we are above reproach, and the evidence is there.
But you wouldn't be opposed to the other important state actors being also given their own distinct categories, so people can know. Are judges under investigation, for example? You wouldn't be opposed to that?
You know the integrity. Well, I'm going to put it this way: the Integrity Commission, I'm very certain in their report, points to who it is that they, as much as they can, point to who it is that are under investigation in terms of clauses. So they would say civil servants, and they would point out that, and the politicians, and they'd point out that. But even beyond that, I'm saying that any politician who feels that they should not receive some level of deliberate scrutiny, there's a challenge there.
I think we lost Mikhail Studio. If you could just reconnect her. Dr. Myers, I heard you in speaking to my colleague Shalois Michael proposing legislative changes. You said that if we change certain things, if we amend certain laws, you think that might improve our standing. Walk me through some of those that you think could assist.
So, and these are, I would remind us that over the years we have been trying to strengthen these laws over the years to try to make things better. So I'll just use some of the ones that we have spoken about. So we have spoken about, the first one is the unexplained welfare order. Unexplained welfare order has been on the books for, I think, the good part of maybe a decade now, in terms of trying to strengthen where there is a difference or deviation between what it is that person's lawful assets and their resources are, and what it is that they have as well. And it is used across countries and legislations, and it is a way to support this, that people should give some form of account for this wealth. And it's a building to strengthen deterrence and restore public trust. The second point we want to talk about, and we spoke about it in some way, is in terms of improving the ability of the investigative and oversight bodies to communicate findings responsibly and transparently. And this speaks in some way to the gag clause, quote unquote, in the Integrity Commission Act. Excessive silence breeds suspicion and undermines confidence. And in Jamaica, where we have indicators, both local and international, that show that we're in a low trust environment, we should be doing everything we can to improve confidence. Third one.
But before you go to the third one, can I hear Mikhail on the balance? Because you know the argument, well, Dr. Myers, Mikhail, that people are being investigated. It doesn't mean they did anything wrong, and they put their name out there, and sometimes it ruins their reputation, and they cannot recover from that. What's the response to that, Mikhail?
Well, if I may answer a question that you asked earlier in terms of parliamentarians being singled out, and I just want to share quickly our view on it, that balance must be struck. So while normally I would say to whom much is given, much is expected, and the parliamentarians are the ones who pass the laws, I think when you have the singling out, what it may lead to is to the speculation in terms of the illicit aid and the illicit this and so on, especially when the gag clause is there and you're unable to speak to the matters. So you just keep on having the numbers increase, and then speculation builds, and it undermines not only the trust in our institutions, but that will also include the institution of the Integrity Commission. And I think we have to be minded, if we're doing it for one, it must be properly disaggregated for all.
So you then would accept then, for example, the category of judges, permanent secretaries, as specific categories?
Yes, because while you do have your parliamentarians and they hold the ability to change the laws, I don't think, well, I can't agree that it shouldn't be disaggregated for others.
Yeah.
That is the view there. I completely agree with my colleague, Dr. Myers, that the gag clause should be lifted. I think sometimes when people hear the lifting of the gag clause, it means that the Integrity Commission will just be able to speak and so on freely. No, JFJ, we have done the research and we have made... we have looked to the Australian provisions, for example, and some of which we have put in our own recommendation to Parliament. For example, a notice of adverse findings. Similar to as media practitioners, Ricardo, before you may publish a story, you give people an opportunity to respond. Those are some of the things that you can build into the system. You can also say, for example, that if the Integrity Commission is to speak on an investigation, it's not just to come to the media and just speak, as Jamaicans would say, willy-nilly. It must be for a particular purpose that has established high thresholds in law. For example, will this serve the public interest? Does the Integrity Commission have an opportunity to clarify a statement that has been made against an official, and therefore that clarity is needed in some instance to clear the public official's name? So you see things swirling around and the Integrity Commission is so gagged. I disagree with some parliamentarians who would indicate that to make public statements will not assist in investigations. Because can you imagine that corruption is one of those things that require the participation of individuals and other civil servants to bring a matter to a particular stage where perhaps administrative sanctions can be laid and so on. And if you have an inability to speak, how do you get the whistleblowers in?
But Michael,
how do you get people to contribute towards the process?
Michael, join me in this imagined world, yes? The Integrity Commission launches an investigation, and let's say that investigation is to whether the Prime Minister has illicitly enriched himself. And they come out and they say at the start, we are investigating the Prime Minister for illicit enrichment. Full stop. The investigation isn't finished. That's all we know in the public domain. Wouldn't that be cause for the Prime Minister to resign?
Well, that's the point I'm making, Ricardo. It's not supposed to be. The Australian Commission, for example, has no such gag clause to the extent that Jamaica has. Within that particular legislation,
I'll let you on in a second, Dr. Myers. Yes.
Circumstances within which the Commission will be able to articulate different matters to the public, which is why I said the thresholds must be established in law. And then if it is that the Integrity Commission or any of its actors vary against those thresholds, then you impose sanctions and you do what the Prime Minister has done. You ask for a judicial review.
And then how do we balance the weaponization of the information now in a small society as tribal as we are? Dr. Myers.
And I've put in the weaponization point here, which in terms of becomes disinformation, where the weaponization is now being used as a way because certain people are unable to respond. In this case, the IC unable and bound. They are unable to respond, so hence there is a weaponization. And the silence now is used in some way where if we had simply a better ability to respond, which Mikhail spoke to there, in terms of there are structures in place that speak to how people can respond. And we are not saying that there should be generally a broad brush able to just tap where you want. What we're saying is actually that there should be structures in place that allow for that type of response to support, one, good governance, and two, the type of justice that we need. It's critical to make that point, because weaponization is something that we're seeing a lot of.
Yes.
The weaponization of silence, weaponization in terms of use of and deliberate use of 90% of the information being the true, but that 10% is so egregious that it actually sullies everything. It's that type of weaponization, and in this today's age where information moves so fast, we have to be careful that we're not giving credence to persons who are nefarious.
Yeah. And you think the silence does that?
Silence does that.
Yeah.
Silence, and in a democracy that we have a democracy that is trending towards reduced participation. We should not give anything to those persons who are able to use this information against us as a people.
Running out of time, Mikel, I want to end where we started. You made a point at the top of the discussion about how we ensure that every Jamaican considers corruption a serious issue. And I've been thinking about this because a lot of Jamaicans don't see things like, for example, buying the license as corruption. They don't see things like, paying a little money if you get a little blight here, or they don't see those things as corruption. How do we change that mindset?
I say we have to go in communities, go in schools, and challenge this thought process that a hustle may a hustle. And you know how us as Jamaicans speak is a little hustler.
Right.
The big man that try to prevent the hustle.
Yes, from eat our food.
That the hustle you're speaking to is a corrupt act. So I think we have to change the mindset with the Integrity Commission, utilizing the funds, going in the communities, NIA, JFG, and others, going into the communities and breaking it down for the people, and let them know that if it is that they see corruption, you're not supposed to do what the three monkeys do, see, deaf, and you can correct me on the saying. But we need to speak a little bit more.
So we need to see, we need to speak, and we need to hear.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is looking. I just want to insert that one.
Yeah, excellent way to end. Dr. Gavin Myers, Principal Director of National Integrity Action. Mikel Jackson is the Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice. Thank you both. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, 6 o'clock, headlines time.
The hour was brought to you by the KFC Value Menu. Grab a chicken box, famous bowl, small popcorn chicken, or crunch sandwich today with combos starting at just $620. KFC, it's finger licking good.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is...
It's a minute after 6.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay Banton. The government is moving to make it easier for businesses to be tax compliant by adjusting the date for filing. The adjustment forms part of amendments to the Asset Tax, Specified Bodies and Income Tax Acts. The bills were tabled in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Finance Minister Fayval Williams says the short time frame in which businesses must file their taxes has been a sore point for years. She says the government is now moving to address the issue.
Under the current framework, corporate taxpayers are required to finalize audited financial statements, prepare annual income tax returns, and make final tax payments within a relatively compressed period following the end of the year of assessment. This timeline has long been recognized as a sustained source of compliance pressure for corporate taxpayers and accountants and auditors, given the sequencing and complexity of year-end financial reporting obligation. The issue of adjusting the annual filing and payment date has been under active consideration since 2021.
Corporate income tax in Jamaica follows a calendar year schedule requiring companies to file annual returns by March 15 of the following year. The government is utilizing already planned adjustments caused by Hurricane Melissa to implement the reform, which has long been recommended by several groups, including the Independent Fiscal Commission. The minister says the date will be moved to April 15.
The current fiscal circumstances have created an opportunity to advance this reform in a careful, measured manner. The Income Tax Amendment Bill and the Assets Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill provide for a limited adjustment to the annual filing and payment date for corporate income tax, moving the final return and payment date from March 15th to April 15th, beginning with the year of assessment 2025. For administrative consistency, the Assets Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill aligns the filing and payment date for asset tax with the revised corporate income tax timeline.
Meanwhile, opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson raised no objection to the adjustments proposed by the finance minister.
To move the filing date from March to April, it is not something that we would have an objection to. I believe it puts the government in a better position to understand the amount of taxes it would collect by the end of the fiscal year, March 30th. And as the minister said, it's something that has been recommended by both tax professionals, and the fiscal commissioner actually in his last report recommended it.
Julian Robinson, opposition spokesman on finance, he was speaking in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Principal Director of the National Integrity Action NIA, Dr. Gavin Myers, says legislative changes are needed to improve Jamaica's standing on the Global Corruption Perception Index, CPI. He was reacting to the report that Jamaica has again retained a CPI score of 44, the 6th year in a row.
One around the need for legislative change that were overdue. One of them was a move towards promoting or promulgating the use of unexplained wealth order to require public officials and others to account for wealth that is clearly disproportionate to a lawful income. The other area was to look at an amendment to the gag clause, so-called in the Integrity Commission Act. We are saying that oversight bodies must be able to communicate their findings responsibly and transparently. The other area was to strengthen the whistleblower protection, because one of the things I will find out is that people are not likely most times to report corruption if doing so puts their livelihoods or lives at risk. So robust protections are essential for surfacing wrongdoing.
A country's score is the perceived level of public sector corruption on a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 means highly corrupt and 100 means very clean. Jamaica's CPI score of 44 has remained unchanged since 2020. This ranks the country 73 out of 182 countries. A CPI score below 50 indicates a serious corruption problem. Dr. Myers says transparency is crucial in increasing the trust and accountability component of the CPI evaluation.
For consistent investigation and prosecution of breaches of the Public Procurement Act, and also the use of administrative sanctions to strengthen the oversight over our resources. Also, commending the state for starting to publish proactively contract awards to proactively allow for transparency in terms of public procurement. And we're saying that public procurement is a critical point, that if we do these, we will make major changes. Each of these things that we have suggested increases visibility, accountability, and trust. And these are the very indicators that feed into the CPI assessment.
Dr. Gavin Myers, Principal Director of NIA. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay. Band on Sport is next.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Nora Gay Banton, weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
How certain are you that you're taking proper care of your pets? How often do you take them to the vet? Just as we need annual checkups with our doctors, most pets need regular checkups too. Owning and caring for a family pet doesn't have to be a difficult or burdensome experience. Nationwide 90 FM has an exciting feature called Pets World that will help you take better care of your pets. Join Nationwide 90 FM every Wednesday at 6:50 a.m. during the program This Morning as we take you into the do's and don'ts of caring for your pets. That's Pets World every Wednesday at 6:50 a.m. during the program This Morning on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Feel the love floating through the airwaves this Valentine's with Nationwide 90 FM. Introducing Love is in the Air.
I found love in you.
A sweet and lovely radio feature inside Cliff Hughes Online at 12:30 p.m. and E-Zone at 4:35 p.m. starting February 9.
Something's got a hold on me lately.
Good evening with your sports report. I'm Alric Swaby. We kick things off with some football as Jamaica could be celebrating another piece of football history in about 24 hours time as national under-17 men look to secure a place at the FIFA World Cup in Qatar in November. The Wendell Downswell conditioned team will face Canada in a decisive Group G clash of the CONCACAF final round qualifiers in Costa Rica starting 3 p.m. Jamaica time. The young Reggae Boys need only a draw to top the group and qualify for the World Cup. They are currently locked on 6 points with the Canadians but has a massive goal difference of plus 15 to Canada's plus 3. If the Jamaicans manage to pull this off and qualify for the World Cup, it will be the third time at the showpiece following the previous appearances in 1999 and 2011. It would also be a personal milestone for head coach Wendell Downswell, who was also the coach of those two teams. President of the Jamaica Football Federation, Michael Ricketts, is confident the players will make up for the heartbreak of the senior team to gain automatic qualification in their campaign last year.
The scenario is just about what it was last year, but based on the experience that we have gained coming out of last year's qualifiers, I think we're in a better position now. We really want to use this opportunity to encourage the young boys. This is going to be huge for us. This administration has not qualified a male team for a global tournament. We're on the verge of doing so. I just want to encourage them, ask them to be strong, both physically and mentally, and I can guarantee them that the sky will be the limit.
Now, much of Jamaica's confidence stems from their potent attacking threat, led by informed strikers Kelvin Brown and Jamari Nolan. Brown has been the standout performer of the tournament so far, netting 5 goals in 2 outings, while Nolan has also impressed, contributing 3 goals to the team's tally.
When you look at the number of goals we scored, I think we scored 12 against the Cayman Islands. I think that was shared amongst maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 players, which shows the all-round attacking depth of our team.
Michael Ricketts. Now, Manchester United's 4-game winning streak in the English Premier League was snapped on Tuesday as they were held to a 1-1 draw by West Ham at the Olympic Stadium in London. Thomas Souček of the Czech Republic gave the Hammers the lead 5 minutes after the interval. But Benjamin Sesko of Slovenia earned United a share of the points with the last action of the game 6 minutes into added time.
Bowen's ball into Souček! It's Thomas Souček for West Ham United! Here's a Burbo, clipped it again!
Now, United, who were dropping points for the first time under interim coach Michael Carrick, moved up to 4th in the standings with 45 points, one ahead of 5th place Chelsea, who led twice before settling for a 2-2 draw with Leeds United at Stamford Bridge. In other games on Tuesday, Newcastle defeated Tottenham 2-1 in London to move up to 10th, while Spurs dropped to 16th and Bournemouth edged Everton 2-1. 5 more games are on Wednesday, including Manchester City at home to Fulham and champions Liverpool at Sunderland. Now to cricket, as West Indies head coach Darren Sammy says his side is focused on delivering an entertaining and disciplined performance when they face England in their second match of the ICC T20 World Cup on Wednesday at the Wankhede Stadium starting at 8:30 a.m. Jamaica time. Sammy stressed that resilience and execution will be key if the Caribbean side is to challenge the current powerhouses of the format. He believes sticking to the plans under pressure will give his players a strong chance of success. Sammy noted that once the team remains committed to their skills and executes consistently, they can put themselves in a position to compete deep into the match. He added that the T20 cricket often rewards teams which stay composed and trust their processes, particularly in high-profile encounters.
We started the tournament well. Mumbai has been a place that has been kind to us in World Cups. Against some same opposition we face tomorrow, so we look forward to it. Like I've said before, many people look at West Indies and all the issues that we have, and sometimes it reflects in the on-field performance, so they don't really give us much of a chance. But within the group, the confidence we have within our group, the players that we have, the experience we have playing in India, we know when we put it together and we trust our execution on the process, we become a very competitive team, and hopefully that competition could result in us winning cricket games.
Darren Sammy. The Cricket West Indies has congratulated Jamaican wrist spinner Vittel Laws on his selection in the ICC Under-19 World Cup team of the tournament. The 18-year-old St. Jago High School standout is the only West Indian in the 12-member team. Laws grabbed 10 wickets in 5 matches at an average of 22 before their exit at the Super 6 phase. His best showing came in their opening match against Tanzania when he took 3 for 23 from his 6 overs to help his side to a 5-wicket win. Laws was also the West Indies' best bowler in the following match against Afghanistan, snaring 3 for 48 from his 10 overs. And in their opening match of the Super 6 against Ireland, Laws produced a decent all-round performance, scoring an unbeaten 18 off 10 balls and claiming 2 crucial wickets. Laws says he's just enjoying his cricket at the moment.
I've been having fun in the later part of the evenings. I've also have so much fun while bowling, deceiving batters, picking up some pretty important wickets at times. So I have fun in both aspects. I wouldn't say any more than the other. Consistency, I think I've been a lot more consistent. Seeing the level I've come from over the years, I've got way more consistent, got way more control. I know I have an idea of what I'm doing while bowling.
Laws, who is back in Jamaica and representing his local club, says he's doing all he can to improve his game.
There's always more you can do, so I just like to improve on what I've done already. Seeing if I could make a big impact, a moment that I could save us forever, that I could look back when I even get bigger in the cricket, like Carlos Bradley or something like that.
Vittel Laws. The Barbadian Jason Holder recently became the first West Indian player to capture 100 wickets in all formats of the game. The 34-year-old, who is currently representing West Indies at the ongoing T20 World Cup, explained that he's humbled by the achievement.
Personally, 100 wickets in this format, is a blessing, to be fair. I guess at the start of my career, I wouldn't have imagined this moment, being the first, to take 100 wickets in each format of the game. But, I take it as it comes. Very, very happy. Thank my teammates over the years, and hopefully we can get a few more pulls.
Holder has now captured 162 wickets in Test, 159 wickets in one-day internationals, and 101 in T20 matches. For Holder, Simon Hetmeyer will be a crucial ingredient towards the success of the team throughout the T20 World Cup tournament.
Just so happy for him as well, too, personally, man. He's my favorite batsman in the Caribbean. I keep telling him that, I keep telling the team that. And, you know, he's one of the guys, for me, that brings a lot of energy to this squad. You know, I mean, forget everything that's happened in the past with him and people unfairly criticizing him. But, you know, for me, I'm just really happy to have him back and see that he's really delivering for the team. So for us, he's a very crucial member of the team. And if he continues in the vein that he's in at this present time, you know, I think it'll put this team in really good stead.
Jason Holder. And finally, in basketball, Wolmer's Boys School were crowned champions of the Issa Urban Era Under-16 Basketball Championships on Tuesday after completing a 2-0 sweep of the best-of-3 series. The Hero Circle-based school defeated Jamaica College 65-50 in Game 2 to secure the title. Head coach Errol Harvey credited divine intervention for the victory.
We were saying that we're better at Brian Fawcett last time we played all night. Each and every one of us in a group will play all night individually. So we were better in terms of having the fourth man in the fire. And they thought they'd throw 3 men in the fire, but the fourth man come in the fire for us, which is our Christ, Lord and Savior.
Harvey says the championship was also the result of the team's hard work and dedication throughout the season.
Oh, it's always a joy at this level to win any trophy because the young men put in a lot of work over the year and we want to appreciate this, and this is really a joyous moment for the school. Mom, this is for you, Mom.
Errol Harvey. Meanwhile, Herbert Morrison High School stamped their authority early and they never let up as they cruised to an emphatic 85-44 win over York Castle in Game 1 of the Rural Era Under-16 semi-final series. Herbert Morrison dominated all 4 quarters, posting identical 21 points in the first, third and fourth periods to take complete control of the contest. Shamar Russell was the engine behind the Herbert Morrison performance, delivering a standout all-around showing with 22 points, 7 rebounds and 6 steals. Tyler Linton provided a solid support with 10 points and 7 rebounds, while Raphael Stevenson also chipped in with 10 points. With the victory, Herbert Morrison takes a 1-0 lead in the best-of-3 series. I'm Alric Swaby, and that's your sports.
KFC, my mind studying. Right now I'm thinking chicken, famous bowl, chicken box combo and popcorn chicken. KFC on my mind, it's on my brain. Great flavor, great taste, like every day. Give me that price, while you benefit the budget little bit to your pay.
The KFC value menu always has you thinking chicken. Get the chicken box combo for just $680, or get the famous bowl combo for $620, or popcorn chicken combo for $630. KFC, it's finger licking good.
One good thing about music when it hits you.
Do you have the Reggae Jamaica mobile app on your phone? No? Well, you could be missing out on news, views, interviews, events, and so much more about the impact of reggae music across the globe. Information at your fingertips about Reggae Month and other exciting reggae events. That's the Reggae Jamaica mobile app, now available in the Apple or the Google Play Store. Get it now.
If you love the vibes, the laughs, and the real talk, then you're one of us. Don't just listen, belong. Join the Nationwide 90 FM Family Club on Patreon.
Turn up the heat with Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classifieds feature. If you have a car for sale, room for rent, or yard sale come up. If you look at work or need stuff. If you provide a service, make it a Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classified segment. Your listing plays again and again. From morning till evening. You sing it, we play it. You say it once, Jamaica hears it all day, every hour. Contact our sales team now at 876-630-1210 or sales at nationwidenewsnetwork.com. Hot Listings on Nationwide 90 FM, a new revolution in media. Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Feel the love floating through the airwaves this Valentine's with Nationwide 90 FM. Introducing Love is in the Air.
I found love in you.
A sweet and lovely radio feature inside Cliffviews Online at 12:30 p.m. and E-Zone at 4:35 p.m. starting February 9.
Something's got a hold on me lately.
From romantic shoutouts to big love for friends, family, and the ones who always show up, we're connecting hearts on air and across social media.
Think I'd leave your side, baby.
Got something loving to say? Say it loud and say it proud. Let Nationwide help you make this Valentine unforgettable.
I think it's so easy to fall in love.
Submit messages to your Valentine or secret admirer to sales@nationwidenewsnetwork.com and let us do the rest. Let Nationwide 90 FM be your gateway to a memorable Valentine's season. Because guess what? Love sounds better on the radio.
Heart be racing like a drum, drum, drum. Feel it in my soul. Leave me one.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, by God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path. Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Twenty-six after 6. This is the nation's business. You're tuned into Nationwide at 5. I'm Ricardo Brooks. Thank you so much for staying with us. And if you're just joining us, hello to you. Now, the government is moving to make it easier for businesses to be tax compliant by adjusting the date for filing. The adjustment forms part of amendments to the Asset Tax, Specified Bodies and Income Tax Acts. The bills were tabled in the House of Representatives today. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
Finance Minister Fayval Williams says the short time frame in which businesses must file their taxes has been a sore point for years. She says the government is now moving to address the issue.
Under the current framework, corporate taxpayers are required to finalize audited financial statements, prepare annual income tax returns, and make final tax payments within a relatively compressed period following the end of the year of assessment. This timeline has long been recognized as a sustained source of compliance pressure for corporate taxpayers and accountants and auditors, given the sequencing and complexity of year-end financial reporting obligation. The issue of adjusting the annual filing and payment date has been under active consideration since 2021.
Corporate income tax in Jamaica follows a calendar year schedule requiring companies to file annual returns by March 15 of the following year. The government is utilizing already planned adjustments caused by Hurricane Melissa to implement the reform, which has long been recommended by several groups, including the Independent Fiscal Commission. The minister says the date will be moved to April 15.
The current fiscal circumstances have created an opportunity to advance this reform in a careful, measured manner. The Income Tax Amendment Bill and the Assets Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill provide for a limited adjustment to the annual filing and payment date for corporate income tax, moving the final return and the payment date from March 15th to April 15th, beginning with the year of assessment 2025. For administrative consistency, the Assets Tax Specified Bodies Amendment Bill aligns the filing and payment date for assets tax with the revised corporate income tax timeline.
The minister says this will only apply to corporate income tax and asset tax filings.
The amendment is intended to reduce compliance pressure, improve administrative coherence, and better align revenue realization with fiscal planning, while remaining fully consistent with the government's overall fiscal framework.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. Let me go for a quick time signal. After the time signal, I'll be joined by the Fiscal Commissioner, Courtney Williams.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:30. This is an important announcement from the National Water Commission. The NWC is conducting sewer repair works along the River Bay Road from Railway Lane to the NWC's River Bay Road sewage pump station in Montego Bay, St. James. Works commenced on Sunday, February 8, 2026, and will end on Sunday, March 8, 2026. During this period, River Bay Road between Slaughterhouse Road and Railway Lane will be closed to vehicular traffic. Motorists are encouraged to use alternative routes. Intermittent dust and noise disturbances may occur. The NWC apologizes for the inconvenience and thanks the public for their patience and understanding. That was an important announcement from the National Water Commission. Back with you on Nationwide at 5. Now, the government is moving to make it easier for businesses to be tax compliant by adjusting the date for filing. With me now, the country's Fiscal Commissioner, Courtney Williams. Mr. Williams, good evening.
Good evening, Ricardo, and good evening to all your listeners and viewers.
Appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Let me ask you, what specific benefits do you expect businesses to gain from this extended deadline?
Okay, so as the Minister outlined in her presentation to Parliament this afternoon, it's really a compressed time for corporate entities to be able to complete their returns for the year that ended the calendar year before, and pretty much about a 10-week period for them to be able to do all of that, file their return and pay their corporate income tax. So extending it by 1 month actually gives them more time to be able to undertake all of those activities. So that's an important benefit for corporate entities in terms of being allowed more time to be able to file their return and pay their income tax.
And I imagine with that, with more time, then the government can better plan revenue collection and the fiscal planning, yeah?
Exactly. So this move is a win-win. It's a win for the corporate entities, as I just mentioned, in terms of the time. And it's also a win for the government in the sense that having the income tax due in March, which is the last month of the fiscal year, it imposes a certain kind of a risk to the government, the risk of shortfall. And if there's a shortfall, then the government would have basically no time to make up for that shortfall. Because we're talking about from the 15th of March to the end of March. If there's any shortfall during that period, then there's no time for the government to put any measures in place to be able to recover from that shortfall. And we actually saw that happen a few years, including last year. But that was a case in point. Significant shortfall in March.
Yeah. And how do you see this move fitting into the government's broader tax reform agenda?
It fits in quite well in the sense that you see, from a perspective of taxes, you want to ensure that for the taxpayers, there should be relative ease for them to be able to comply.
Yeah.
So allowing them more time, that aligns well with the whole thrust to make it easier for businesses to comply. It also fits in for the government in the sense that the government wants to reduce the risk associated with its tax system.
Mm-hmm.
And with so much of your taxes, about 15% of the taxes are usually collected in the month of March. Again, in the last month of the fiscal year.
Yes.
If you are not on target with that, then you can throw off your program for the rest of that year without being able to adjust. So shifting it allows the government to better plan its operations. So when it's now in April, if there should be any fallout in that month, then the government basically have another 10, 11 months of the fiscal year to make adjustments, whether adjustment in the tax program or whether adjustment to its expenditure to be able to bring back the fiscal program on track.
Yeah. It seems so obvious, Mr. Williams, that this would be beneficial. Why is it taking the government so long, you know?
Well, I'm not going to answer for the government, but as the minister also had mentioned, it has been on the table for discussion for some time.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did last year in our inaugural report and all subsequent reports is to amplify that call, to make this move a win for corporate entities, a win for the government. That also must be a win for Jamaica. So I'm actually happy. I welcome the decision by the government to propose this amendment to the Act, which we expect to be passed. Well, the law houses will go through the Senate. We expect that to be passed and for the measure to come into place starting April this year.
Yeah, excellent. Fiscal Commissioner Courtney Williams, I imagine we're going to be having several more conversations with you in the coming weeks as we expect the estimates of expenditure to be tabled on Thursday. Thank you so much for your time, though. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And after the estimates, the budget is tabled, then we will have a 2-week period that we will review it and give our assessment, which will be tabled in Parliament shortly thereafter.
Excellent. And of course, we'll have those conversations. Thank you so much. I'm going to be joined now by President of the Micro, Small and Medium Size Enterprises MSME Alliance, Antoinette Hamilton, because this move by the government is seeking to make businesses more tax compliant. And as you heard from the country's fiscal commissioner there, he sees it as a win-win, for both business and the government. Do we have Antoinette yet? All right. Ms. Hamilton, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm good, thank you.
All right. So let me ask you, the fiscal commissioner is saying it's a win-win for businesses and the government. Do you see it that way?
I agree. I agree that this is a step in the right direction, and know that being a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants is something that we have been advocating for. Due to the added pressure of, just accountants and the limited number of, professional accountants that are around and tax preparers. But in terms of small businesses, I think it also helps us because, one, it shows that the government is willing to work with businesses, which will increase tax morale, I believe. And also the fact that for some industries, January and February are usually slow periods, especially those industries that are in service and tech and others that are not goods producing. They usually face a little struggle in January and February. So in terms of cash flow, they may have a little difficulty there, and then to meet the tax filing in March may not be as favorable to them.
Right.
So this move, I believe, will not only give them a little more breathing space, but I think overall will improve the tax morale. And I just want for my MSMEs to understand that this is for small businesses that are registered as corporate entities, that are limited companies and not sole traders. But indeed, there are many MSMEs that are registered as limited companies, so a lot of them will benefit from this. And certainly, as a chartered accountant, I will benefit. As a matter of fact, I feel the pressure being lifted already.
Yeah, let me talk to me a little bit more about those pressures, because as an operational matter, as a matter of compliance, you talk about the fact that cash flow may be slow in the beginning of the year. How does that usually affect the operations of these small businesses, knowing that they have to meet the deadline, the old deadline, and facing that crunch?
Well, what you find is that it forces them to delay the filing, and oftentimes result in them being late, which of course affects their ability down the road to do certain business with the government.
Because they wouldn't be compliant.
They wouldn't be compliant, and they need a tax compliance certificate and so forth to do business. So it really would help them. What I would suggest to them, though, is not to wait, even though it's been extended. To still, if you're in a position to file and get it out of the way. But certainly, not everyone would have been in that position, and also accountants would have been under pressure. And so sometimes it's not necessarily business owners that may want to file late, but it's because of the volume of requests. Sometimes the accountants are also under pressure, and that forces them to be late. But this definitely will give us a lot of breathing space, both the accounting professionals and as well as businesses that may not be able to meet the March 15 deadline and may just be coming out of a rough patch from the January and February.
Anthony, I know you pay close attention to the budget every year, and I'm always interested in your perspectives once it's been tabled and the minister outlines the revenue measures. Let me ask you, in terms of other tax reforms that you think could benefit small businesses, what are some of those?
Well, let us go back to the GCT. I believe that the services industry has not really been given the priority that it deserves. I believe that, in terms of the GCT, it doesn't provide an incentive for the services industry to collect tax on behalf of the government, because when you register to collect GCT, you're really acting as a tax collector for the government. While the manufacturing and the goods producing sectors have the input tax GCT on purchases, because they do a lot of importation or local purchases that are from registered GCT entities, the service industry really don't have a lot of input tax credit to claim, and so it makes them less competitive if they're supposed to be collecting on behalf of the government. So I'm not sure if this budget cycle may be the cycle that we want to address that, but it's something that we can look into in terms of some exemption for certain industries in terms of tax GCT collection.
This will be the Hurricane Melissa budget, and I know that you advocate strongly each year for consideration, as you should, to be given to small businesses in the budget. You think there's going to be any room for any kind of sweetness goodies for your sector?
Well, we're not. Look, we're going to be very realistic this time around. That this budget is not going to be something that will probably offer a lot of goodies, but we're expecting, though, that coming out of the Hurricane Melissa and the support that we would have been promised in terms of small business support from the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, that is what we're looking forward to in terms of just the assistance to the recovery. But in terms of any tax reforms at this time, I am not expecting any, but if it comes, we'll be very appreciative.
All right. We'll watch the minister as you'll be watching, and of course we'll have further conversations. Antoinette Hamilton, the president of the MSME Alliance. Appreciate your time as always, Antoinette.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Just before we go to Around the World, let me just big up the Family Club members, the people who have so far subscribed to the Nationwide Family Club, content you won't see anywhere else. Alexander Melville, Hermin Hyatt, Jason Oliphant, Keisha Malcolm, Nadine Darby, Paulette MC, Damian Utar, Ethelyn Gale Hall, Judith Moody, Utinel Delavante, Errol J, Raki Williams, Rand Strawn, Barbara Bailey, Philip Jackson, Real Deal, Desmar, William Holland, Georgia, Calawan Miller, MDL, Marcia Dunkley, Gabriel, Carlton Darby, Anthony Fisher. Thank you all so much for subscribing to the Nationwide Family Club. They subscribed on Tuesday, or Monday. So thank you all. Motivation Monday, you'll get exclusive archives of Perspective. That's Cliff Hughes' JBC program from January 1994. You'll get documentaries, that's members only. You'll get exclusive interviews. The Point is with George Davis. There are features on there. There's the NNN quiz, which is weekly and interactive. The segments, which will be now exclusive to the Family Club. What's on my mind, Cliff Says, the cover story. Behind the scenes content, all on the Family Club, and it's www.patreon.com/nationwidenewsnetwork.com. So head on over there and become a member of the family. Become an official 4%er, yeah? Take a break and come back with Around the World.
Stepping confidently into a new year starts with one simple, powerful word. Yes! Say yes to new beginnings. Say yes to a secure future. Say yes to living the life you love with your family. With health and life insurance from Sagicor Life. We're here to give you the protection and peace of mind you deserve in 2026. All you have to do is say yes to what matters most. Call 888-SAGICOR to speak with an advisor today.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Final stretch now, and we're going to take you around the world, and we're going to Barbados, yeah? There's never a dull moment in Barbados. You guys remember that little song, little jingle? Yeah? Anyhow, the political landscape in Barbados is getting ready for the elections. Tomorrow, the voters will go to the polls to elect all 30 members of the House of Assembly. That's the lower house of the Barbadian Parliament. A majority of 16 seats is needed to form the government. Both the Barbados Labour Party and the Democratic Labour Party have now unveiled their covenants with the people, promising everything from economic stabilization to sweeping constitutional change. With a breakdown, political scientist Devron Bruce joins us now. Devron Bruce, good evening.
Good evening to you and good evening to your audience. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Let me start with the incumbent Barbados Labour Party. What's their covenant? What are they promising Bajans for a third term?
Well, what I would say is that there are several issues that would be covered in a manifesto generally. You made mention, for instance, such as constitutional reform, but the topics and areas and concerns that really are on top of Barbadians' minds would be things such as cost of living. And I think much of us can really reflect and relate to that. Issues such as crime, for instance, and the wider economy. So the Barbados Labour Party has been in government now for 8 years, and in essence have been responsible for managing these concerns. And many people have some objections, concerns, and in essence criticisms of how they've managed those areas thus far. If I could look at the cost of living issue in Barbados, you have the Barbados Labour Party proposing in many ways what are tax rebates and in essence tax refunds as the approach to dealing with the cost of living issue. So at the end of the year, the government will give you a rebate through your tax return. For instance, I think about $1,700 Barbadian dollars, just about, and that would be one of the key planks that they would have proposed. Interestingly enough, a very similar thing with pensioners, so they would have raised the limit at which pensioners are taxed, for instance, and other minor rebates here or there. And it's really in contrast to the opposition, Democratic Labour Party, which would have proposed, to my mind, initiatives that tackle the issue of inflation more directly and at the contributing force. So, for instance, they looked at tax reform in the sense that they want to reduce the VAT from 17.5% to 15%, for instance. They also want to head in a direction where they're addressing utility costs. So there are some taxes on government regarding utilities like water. So everyone in Barbados pays a tax onto their water that would have been recently instituted in 2018, for instance, regardless of how much you use, it's a flat tax. There's also a sewage tax onto our water, for instance. So the Democratic Labour Party is heading in a direction where they think that it makes more sense for them to tackle inflation at the contributory costs, which would be taxes, for instance, whereas the Barbados Labour Party seemingly has headed in the direction of rebates, where they're going to give you some money back at the end of the year through tax returns.
So I did hear some of the DLP's proposals. I think his name is Ryan Walters, is his name? I was watching a presentation from him. But one of the things I was wondering, Devron, how seriously do Bajans take the DLP? Are they seen as a credible party, or are we just headed for another blowout for the Mia Mottley administration?
Well, currently, I think the Democratic Labour Party has a competency deficit. So given the previous administration or the last DLP administration, there would have been many economic headwinds.
And that would have been led by Frondell Stewart?
Led by Frondell Stewart. Yeah. And Barbados would have found itself in some very difficult financial situations, whether it be the foreign reserves, whether it be the growth, whether it be the debt, for instance. And that would have left, I would think, a lasting legacy and impact on many Barbadians' idea of how the DLP has managed the overall economy. And since then, you would have had a circumstance where they would have been to the polls twice and lost all 30 seats on those occasions. And I think that's really a remnant and a reflection of the fact that Barbadians still don't have confidence in the DLP as a team. So they've done some work to address some of that by having some new candidates and young candidates. But the criticism is that these are individuals with no real experience in government or no real experience in the private sector, etc. So I think that they still have a deficit, a trust deficit, and they still have a competency deficit to overcome. But certainly they've been addressing the issues, and there's been some movement in their direction, I would assume.
And do you think that movement will result in any seats, or are we looking for a 30 sweep again?
Well, the reality is that given where they are starting from, it will be quite difficult for them to do very well electorally. Let me say that. There are, however, some seats that possibly can be in play, and that is based on the swing that's required, so the performance that's required in the 2026 election and how they performed in the last election, 2022. And there are about 4 seats I'm taking a look at, because we've already seen the DLP able to meet that swing in previous elections. So there are about 4 seats that may possibly come over. But interestingly enough, one of the biggest issues the DLP has is the existence of what we call the third parties or alternative parties, which seemingly have been cutting into their votes, because many of those third party candidates were actually former DLP members, for instance. So I think the third party may very well be a spoiler in the Barbadian electoral context.
And that would certainly be interesting. Mia Mottley, we know her strengths, so we see her on the international stage. Are there any particular areas that you'd say she's weak, vulnerable, that the DLP can exploit?
Well, interestingly enough, there would have been a national poll recently released that spoke to some of her weaknesses, and there aren't many. So as I mentioned, issue-wise, the cost of living is certainly foremost on Barbadians' mind. As it relates to Mia Mottley in particular, there are some concerns regarding the style of leadership. So many people believe that she may be a bit heavy-handed. Many people believe that there may be a need for an opposition. Many people believe that there may be a bit too much power concentrated in one place as it relates to Mia Mottley. But based on the polling and based on those numbers, they are not overriding concerns, but they're certainly concerns that have been raised. So as far as weaknesses, I think that her major weakness really is the inability to deal with the cost of living crisis as well as the increase in crime, those issues. And then on a more political level, the concern of the absence of an opposition and the fact that you have a strong concentration of power, so to speak, in Prime Minister Mottley's hand.
We Jamaicans have a saying. We say that if Aki, the Jamaican, they mean the red. And I heard the Prime Minister of Barbados talking about who was taking advice from local Jamaican political parties, and she gave a shout out to the People's National Party, indicating that her party, they're not fair weather friends, that even though the opposition, the PNP is in opposition here, that her BLP remains, good friends with the People's National Party, and therefore she was not taking any advice from the Jamaica Labour Party. How is that playing on the ground, the idea that there may be Jamaican operatives at work in Barbados?
Well, what I would say is that concern did not begin in Barbados. As you recall, there would have been elections last year in St. Vincent. Right. You would have had elections in Trinidad, and you would have had elections in St. Lucia. And last year in particular, there seems to have been this sister party type of activity that's been coming very public. It's always existed, but now you have political leaders in essence now taking sides regarding who is their sister party and who is not their sister party, for instance. So naturally, I think that you have a bit of consideration regarding whether there is that influence happening in Barbados as it did in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for instance. But I think as a region, we need to move beyond this idea of a sister party and really focus on sister country. I was actually quite disappointed in the way that Prime Minister Mottley would have brought over that point. And it's almost as if she's not friends with the GLP. And to my mind, it's problematic in the sense that we're pretty much all one people. And I don't think we should divide ourselves any further along political lines, and certainly not party lines. This yellow is the code and red this, and I don't think it's necessary, truth be told.
So not sister parties, but sister countries.
Indeed.
And I'm sure Jamaicans will be happy to have Barbados as a sister country. All right, polls open at what time tomorrow?
So polls open from 6 a.m. and will close at 6 p.m., the usual 12-hour period. And I think all things are set regarding the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. There have been some issues regarding the list system that we've had because they've been trying to clean the list. It's a pretty inflated list. Some dead people are on it. Individuals who no longer live in Barbados are on it. And they tried to clean the list, but then it ended up in a circumstance where many persons who should have been voting and able to vote have been removed from the list. So most recently, I think they just put everybody back on, forget about the list cleaning, so you don't have a circumstance where persons show up tomorrow and are not on the electoral list.
And 6 o'clock close of polls, and then by when should we start to see trends that indicate whether it's a red wave or indeed, as they say, the code is yellow?
Well, I would say within 2 hours you should know where the election is going. I mean, people know that, quite frankly, Prime Minister Mottley will be returning to office. I don't think that's in question. It's whether or not the DLP will retain seats and how many seats they will retain. So I would say by 8 p.m. you should know where the direction of these seats are heading. If you're looking particularly at the box counts and the seats that the DLP should be doing well in particular constituencies if they're going to get over the line. But I'm pretty sure that majority of Barbadians are quite confident and sure that Prime Minister Mottley will be returned to office.
All right. Well, there you have it. In Jamaica, the Labour Right said a third term was loading for Andrew Holness, and it loaded. And now we're hearing from political scientist Devron Bruce that at the close of polls at 6 tomorrow, a third term is likely, very likely, to have been loaded for Mia Mottley. Devron, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll check in with you tomorrow to see what's happening on the lovely island of Barbados.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys have a good one.
All right, have a good one, yeah? So The Bajans go to the polls tomorrow. 30 seats in the House of Assembly. Mia Mottley has 29 because there was a defection too by Ralph Thorne to form the opposition. He became leader of the opposition, but she did win 30 seats. So, we'll see if it's a sweep again or the DLP can make some inroads. Yeah, that's going to be it for me. Thank you to Sonia Stewart, my producer. Thank you so much, Sonia. I appreciate it. Andrew Buggs, the man behind the controls. Thank you. My colleagues in the newsroom, the very best in the business. Thank you all so much. All our contributors, our sponsors, our YouTubers, and you, our valued listeners. We appreciate you so very much. 7 o'clock, the comment section. Mahiri Stewart, Shalois Michael. They're up next. I'm Ricardo Brooks. Good evening.